Have you ever noticed that when you spend too much time alone, your thoughts start getting louder? Not just louder, stranger, deeper, and sometimes heavier than usual. It's one of those things we all experience but rarely talk about. So today, I want to take you on a simple, honest journey into what really happens inside the mind when solitude stops being peaceful and starts becoming something else. Let's begin. There's a difference between being alone and feeling alone. Being alone is physical. Feeling alone, that's psychological. And the mind reacts to both in surprising ways. When you spend long periods without social connection, the first thing that changes isn't your behavior, it's your inner world. Your thoughts stop bouncing off the world around you and start bouncing inside your head. And when the mind becomes your only companion, it does something interesting. It begins to speak in layers. You start replaying conversations. You analyze decisions you made years ago. You think about the future, the past, and every version of yourself you've ever been. It's like your brain finally gets the quiet it needs to open every drawer you've ignored. But here's the strange part. The mind doesn't like silence as much as you think it does. We imagine solitude as peaceful. But after a while, the brain begins to search for stimulation. And if it can't find it outside, it creates it inside. That's why your thoughts start getting louder, why little problems feel bigger, why small insecurities feel sharper, and why you begin to notice things about yourself you never noticed before. The mind is always talking. You just don't hear it until the world around you goes quiet.
Now let's go deeper. One of the first psychological effects of prolonged solitude is something researchers call hyper-reflection. It's when you begin to think about thinking. You step outside yourself and watch your own mind like an observer. This isn't always bad. In fact, some of the greatest thinkers in history lived in solitude. Philosophers, writers, inventors. They understood something important. When you're alone long enough, your brain begins to reveal parts of itself that never appear in a crowded room. But solitude has two sides. There's the side that leads to insight, and the side that leads to distortion. And the line between them is thin. Stay alone long enough, and you might start to exaggerate negative thoughts, misread your own emotions, lose perspective, overestimate your fears, and underestimate your strengths.
Why does this happen? Because when you're alone, you don't get psychological feedback, the tiny signals from people around you that keep your thoughts grounded. A facial expression, a comment, a laugh, a simple, "I understand." These things regulate your emotions far more than you realize. Without them, your mind becomes your only mirror. And sometimes that mirror is warped. But here's where it gets even more interesting. When people spend too much time alone, the brain starts activating the default mode network, the part responsible for imagination, daydreaming, and constructing your sense of self. This network can be beautiful. It helps you reflect, heal, and create. But when it's active for too long, it can also make you ruminate, overthink, relive old pain, and question your identity. In other words, your mind becomes a house with too many open doors. This is why long-term solitude can make time feel slower, emotions feel heavier, and small worries feel enormous. Your brain is working overtime because it has no external world to anchor itself to.
But here's the twist most people don't expect. Too much solitude doesn't always make you sad. Sometimes It makes you comfortably numb. You get used to your own bubble. You get used to not being judged. You get used to not needing anyone. And slowly, without noticing it, you begin to prefer your own company because it feels easier. Not healthier, not happier, just easier. This is called emotional withdrawal, and it's one of the most subtle effects of prolonged isolation. You stop seeking connection not because you don't want it, but because you forget how to reach for it. And when connection becomes unfamiliar, loneliness becomes normal.
But here's the hopeful part. The mind is incredibly adaptable. Just like solitude can change it, connection can reshape it. A single good conversation can reset your emotional rhythm. 5 minutes of laughter can interrupt days of overthinking. One moment of feeling understood can silence thoughts that felt overwhelming. The truth is this: humans weren't designed to be alone forever. We're wired to share stories, energy, and meaning with one another. But we're also wired to reflect, retreat, and understand ourselves. So solitude isn't the problem. Too much of it is. It's about finding the balance where you can hear your thoughts without being swallowed by them, and return to the world without feeling like a stranger in it. So if you've been alone for a long time, and you feel your mind changing, that's not failure. It's not weakness. It's simply your brain reacting to what it's missing. You're not broken. You're just human. And humans need connection the same way they need silence. Not all the time, not never, but in rhythm. So reach out when the world feels too quiet. Step back when the world feels too loud. And remember, your mind isn't your enemy. It's just waiting for you to give it what it needs. Sometimes that's solitude. Sometimes that's people. Most of the time, it's both.